Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World. I am your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Mr. Sean Faulk.
Hello.
And Mr. Steve Porter.
Hello.
And previously, we did best themed thrill attractions at Walt Disney World. This week, we're going to talk about the best themed family attractions based on your votes. We put a poll up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/DizUnplugged, and 1,366 responses voting on what you thought the best themed family attractions at Walt Disney World are. And let's get right to it. Number 5. And there are some big gaps between...
Huge.
The gap between number 5 and number 1 is massive.
Yeah.
But number 5, Kilimanjaro Safaris. I don't know that that's what comes to mind when I think of themed attractions. I mean, it is a themed attraction.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a safari. It's on a savanna. Mm-hmm. There are live animals, so yeah, it's well themed. But I don't know that it kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have. I wouldn't have thought to put this on my list this high. But I don't know. I can see the argument for why it could be that high when the cast members do play the role of it being a safari that you're on for a long... I forgot how long they say you're going on this safari for, but, they kind of pretend like this is a real safari, and I don't know. I guess I get it a little bit, but...
And again, 4% of the vote.
Yeah, I mean...
It made number 5 with only 4%.
Yeah, so I mean, at least people were very split. I mean, I'm not about it, but it's a good... the safari's fun to do. I mean, as far as the actual ride goes, but I think of it as like a collective thing. I mean, there's nothing really in the line that suggests this.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
that's a good point.
I don't like the night safari at all. I just don't get it. I mean, everything's still asleep like it was in the daytime. So I don't know. I like the safari. It's really cool, but I mean, there's other things.
It's not a must-do
right
for
off
me.
the top of my head. That
Well,
I
I also just think when we're talking about theming, it's like I can't really thinking about it. Besides the cast members getting into their role, what about it is super themed?
Well, okay, it's a safari, and you're not going through a dark ride. It is actually a savanna with animals.
Oh, yeah. No.
Okay?
Right.
And so, no, I mean, I get it. It just doesn't, I don't know, it
doesn't scream to me.
It doesn't jump out. And maybe that's unfair. Maybe that is an unfair...
And it's amazing. And if the question had been to me, it is like a must-do kind of thing, because even at a zoo, you can't do something like that. There's nothing I can think of anywhere where you can do this except going to Africa and doing this. So it's the closest in my head I can think of. But so it is one of those things where I'm like, this is a must-do, must-see. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, whatever. I just don't get it with the theming question. Yeah. So,
well, number 4 makes a lot more sense, although only 5.6% of the vote on this one, Peter Pan's Flight. Now, I think especially since they redid the queue.
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
That certainly made a big difference.
The queue definitely helped, for sure.
But again, I'm not looking at this from the stand, and nor do we ask just the queue. It's the entire attraction. Mm-hmm. But you have to include the queue in that. So I thought, this is one of my all-time favorite dark rides. It is a classic Disney dark ride. And I think it does a great job of taking you through the story. Mm-hmm.
I think this could even be higher on the list if there's an eventual redesign for Fantasyland on the outside, because I do think where our Fantasyland struggles as compared to Disneyland is we still kind of have the I don't know how to describe it, but the theming on the outside of our Fantasyland attractions are very similar. It's a Small World and Peter Pan, and that little area over there is I don't even know what to call it, but the theming is not really of the attraction on the outside, just the signage.
Yeah, the signage, yeah.
So I think maybe in the future they could make that a little bit different. I don't know what they would do, but I feel like that would be my just small little tidbit about why I think maybe it's a little high, but then you go in the attraction, in the queue, everything about the attraction itself, I think it's well deserving of its spot.
Okay. Yeah, I don't dislike the ride or anything. It's really short, but for how long you have to wait for it and everything. I do like the bedroom scene now that they've kind of added that, the shadow play and all this kind of stuff in there. I am surprised that it wasn't switched if we're getting in that category. I think something like the Little Mermaid ride is a little better themed, and it's longer, and like the whole outside and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Agreed.
that castle.
I would agree.
Like,
I think
all of it.
I think that
So you're saying the people are wrong?
maybe.
So to a degree, I think that part of the reason this attraction might be so high is because it's a fan favorite and people are voting on emotions maybe slightly a little bit, and that if Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid had been around for as long as Peter Pan's Flight had been around, it had been a staple of Disney vacations for some people, where I feel like right now Journey Under the Sea Under the Sea is still so new that you don't have that connection to it yet. Where I think
that's an interesting
from
point.
a subjective standpoint, it
people
probably should be higher.
You gotta
At
wonder.
this point, like, people for like 40 years, I guess, have been coming and doing this ride, so they remember their childhood. They take their kids and see that, and see their faces with it. So I get that point for sure.
Well, number 3, I got to be honest, I'm scratching my head here. 11% of the vote, Toy Story Midway Mania. I don't think it's badly themed. I just think there are many things that are much better. It doesn't take you through any of the stories of Toy Story. It's a midway game. It's a carnival midway game in 3D. It's a great attraction and I love it, but I don't know. I see, for me, theming is you're taking me into that world. You're taking me into the movie, the story, and this attraction does none of that.
Well, I think that the loading area of that attraction is a good theming, and that you're Andy's room and you feel like you're sized down to be a toy. But then once you go into the screens, I feel like it completely loses all of that.
No, I agree with that. And there's not really much going on the outside of the attraction. But when I went in, I'd ridden the ride probably 4 or 5 times. And then when I was with someone, and it was like a 4 or 5 year old or whatever, this kid in front of us was like, oh my God, we're toys. And I just sat and looked around and I was like, oh my God, we're toys. Like, that kind of thing, and my mind was just blown. So I was like, oh my God. Like, so now every time I go in, I'm like, oh, right, we're toys. Like that. So I really like that about it, but I do get what you're saying. Like, if we're doing this, we need to throw in like Nemo and Friends.
I also
think, because it goes into an aquarium kind of thing.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also, when I think of theming, I don't think of screens. I feel like screens are not an immersive theming because they're screens. I don't know.
Okay, you did Flight of Passage?
Yeah, but...
You're going to make that argument there?
But there is, with Flight of Passage, it's the cue. It's the fact that the Banshee is breathing. It's the smells.
We need to do a new show, Craig, called Fanboy Smackdown. I want to do that show.
No, but I don't know. There's a lot more with Flight of Passage where... There's senses, smells. The Banshee. The whole thing is a whole package. Where I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I get it. Yeah.
All right. I'm being given signals from my producer.
He's crashing and burning with his argument.
Yeah. Wrong.
That's the argument you were making, wasn't it?
No. I'm just saying wrong because it's fun. All right. Now, I completely agree with number 2 and number 1 on this list. And I also want to point out that 3 of the attractions on this list are classic attractions. They're not new. They're not new. Number 2, Pirates of the Caribbean. Just under 13% of the vote for Pirates of the Caribbean. Arguably... I can't say that anymore. I used to say it was my favorite attraction, but it's definitely in the top 3 now. Absolutely love Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't think you could possibly immerse someone in a story more than you do in this attraction. And when you stop and think that this, when it was created, was not based on a movie. The movie was based on the attraction.
Because there was so much there.
Because there was so much there. For me, Pirates of the Caribbean absolutely deserves its place in this list.
110 million% think that this deserves its spot. When we were at D23, I went to the Pirates panel where past and present Disney Imagineers talked about Pirates, and one of the things that they said is when the dialogue was written, it was there's a lot of stuff going on, and they were originally worried that Walt wouldn't like that, but when Walt listened, he basically liked it because it said that people will now want to go a third and fourth time to see like what they hear and what else is going around, because you're just completely surrounded.
There is so much going on.
Yeah.
Not just even audio wise, but visually.
Yeah.
There's so many things to say.
So when I have something in my head that about Walt liking it for some reason, it's like, okay, that deserves any praise that it gets,
Yeah, no, I mean, this ride is like, I mean, for one, it's classic besides that or whatever, but it even the line, the outside, the huge columns and all this stuff, like it really just takes you into that world, and really even beyond the outside of the ride, there's the stage across the way and like the Tortuga Tavern, those kind of things. Like it's almost like its own little area inside of Adventureland. So I do really, I mean, I think it's great. It's so well themed, and every time I ride, I pick up on new things and new stuff going on in the background. I'm like, oh, look at that happening back there. And yeah,
that is great. A good point, that once you kind of make that turn around Tiki Room, that it's almost in its own little section at Adventureland. I never really thought about that, but that's 100% true.
Yeah, it's definitely its own thing. I'm very sad they're getting rid of the redhead. So like
I know.
I want them to leave it, like that kind of thing. So just
yeah, well, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
On their adjustments to the upcoming adjustments to Pirates of the Caribbean based on political correctness. But we'll leave that for another show at another time. Which brings us to our your number one best themed family attraction at Walt Disney World by a mile. 46% of the vote went to Haunted Mansion. And again, I have to agree. I do not think there is an attraction at Walt Disney World that immerses you in its theme more or better than this attraction does.
Yeah.
Again, one of my all-time, my office is completely decked out in Haunted Mansion. So I love this attraction, and this is a must-do. Pirates and Haunted Mansion. If I'm in the Magic Kingdom, those are must-do attractions every time I go.
Yeah. If I were to have made this list, number 1 and number 2 would switch depending on what day you ask me. But yeah, Haunted Mansion is so clear.
And that's what I thought, that these might be closer in terms of numbers, but 13% for Pirates and 46% for Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
This is a runaway.
I am. Yeah, that's what probably the biggest thing I'm surprised about is how big of a gap it is. I mean, it's not more than double. But yeah, this whole attraction it's great. It's classic. The song is great. You're so enveloped in the attraction once you're on it. Another one where cast members totally play a role in the attraction, where these cast members, are playing the part, kind of like Tower of Terror in the Thrill episode that we did last week. These cast members are, into their role. They'll, get to the dead center of the room when you're in the first room, the stretching room. So yeah, it's got to be.
Oh yeah,
gotta be
between the outside and the voice and all the stuff going on inside of it, like it's got everything happening completely throughout the whole attraction. And I will say the only thing I wish we had here with it was if they brought the Nightmare Before Christmas theming for Halloween time to Disney in Florida, because that's like one of my favorite things, even though I don't care that much about that movie, but it's so well done. And even like as I've been to the other parks, like that's the biggest ride where you can go to Disneyland and they're really well on theme. If you go to Disney Paris, they're still on theme. It's in French, but like it's still happening. Like, so it really works out well, and they're very different. Like if you do go to the one in Paris, there's a lot more like skeletons and these other types of things that don't fit in with this one. So it's enough of a switch from each Disney park that it feels fresh at all.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. But there are some things in this list I agree with, and some things I don't. But Pirates and Haunted Mansion, I think we can all get on board with.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, so there you have it. Your top 5 best themed family attractions at Walt Disney World: Kilimanjaro Safaris, Peter Pan's Flight, Toy Story Midway Mania, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Haunted Mansion. And that will do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back with you again next week with another edition of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. Thanks for being with us, everyone. Have a great week.